good morning to you.
Good morning.
Why?
It's one thing to live in a constitutional democracy and hold the government to account, but that's not the whole story. You also need to hold the opposition to account, and I'm afraid if we're making a few politicians' lives a bit difficult, I think we're doing something right.
Okay, so, and why the DA in particular? I mean, shouldn't this manifest in all parties, or are you just practicing on the DA, or rather your affiliations with the DA?
A trial run. No, I think if you look at the constitutional reality, they are the official opposition. But they are not the entirety of the opposition, of course. So I don't think this is just the advice we give them is just, specifically applicable to the DA. But we have to be honest about the current political reality. The DA is in conversation of some introspection, in search of some redefinition, perhaps. So now, as a classic liberal think tank, we've been doing this for 90 years. So we know when to spot an opportunity to really get into a conversation and make sure that the classical liberalism that we were so criticized for by the National Party and by the ANC, that remains, a relevant factor in especially a party like the DA that calls itself a liberal party.
And to that end, you say Mmusi Maimane must resign?
This is where I have to be completely honest. I personally, in my capacity as a IR analyst in my previous life a week ago, called for him to resign, but this campaign is not about getting rid of Mr. Maimane. The IRR will not, endorse nor criticize or call for the removal of people or specific persons.
It's hard to pull the two apart when you work there, isn't it?
It's the interesting bit that if you write an opinion piece within the Institute, we are encouraged to, within the parameters of classical liberalism, individual rights, freedom of speech, non-racialism, the rule of law, within those parameters, there's actually quite a lot of room for disagreement. We can agree on the principles of needing to hold politicians to account, but...
So how much disagreement was there?
About my call for Mr. Maimane to resign? Quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Quite a bit. That's why it was published as an opinion piece under my name. But this campaign is not about personalities. It's very much about the principles.
Now, all right, so you say that you've got to hold parties to account, this introspection and what you do with it. What you are doing is possibly driving that wedge deeper within the DA. I mean, we're seeing these two opposing sides developing quite substantially, which could destroy the party even more.
That would be a problem for me were I loyal to party politics instead of principle politics. At the IRR, in the, I think, 40s, we worked with the PAC. We worked with the ANC. We have worked with a whole range of political parties who, at different times in their history, have supported the idea of a non-racial democracy, freedom of speech, limited government. We're willing to work with anyone on those grounds. So if the DA finds itself in perhaps an awkward position, it's the job of think tanks to ask awkward questions, to prod, to make sure that politicians, as I say, are held to account.
Okay, you also say that the seed of the DA's recovery has been planted by a white man in the Western Cape. Why do you say white man? I mean, to what end were those words? Again, to clarify, those are my words. There's the opinion piece I wrote, and then there's the campaign. And on the campaign, I can speak on behalf of the IRR, but on that opinion piece, I'm more than happy to speak on my own behalf, and my poor colleagues don't have to bear the brunt. The reality is that in any other democracy, Mr. Maimane's position would be quite tenuous. And in any other democracy, a candidate like Alan Winde, with his track record of job creation and fighting crime, his experience, he would be an obvious candidate. And I wrote that opinion piece, and I realized that at some point, I think people might notice that Mmusi Maimane is a black man and Alan Winde is a white man. I think the South African electorate have an eye for such details. So I could just as well be honest about this and say,
This is an awkward question I think the DA must ask itself. Are we willing to appoint someone on the merit, and to the people who then clutch pearls about the races or the race of the person in question, just tell them basta, you know, we elect this man, this woman, because they are the best person for the job, and their race, frankly, is irrelevant. So the reason I put it there was because it would become a point. When you're writing things like this, you have to anticipate what people will ask you, and that's the whole idea of opinionation or argumentation, is to anticipate the questions.
Because race is relevant and highly crucial
Exactly.
to success of almost anything at the moment.
And that's what I think.
Politics.
Exactly, and that's what I think we need to get away from. And I think the DA, were it to follow that opinion piece or the advice therein, I think it would be a game changer to elect someone on merit and just say, if you care about this person's race, we're not the racists.
Herman, good to talk to you.
Thank you very much.